this logistics is difficult under any circumstances, but the amount of crunch that was happening with this worldwide, we now know China was hoarding a lot of supplies for itself. It was challenging, but Jared's done a great job, so thank you. And with that, you're up from, is your market cover here?
We are today.
Okay.
We came all this way to see you. We haven't heard yet about unemployment. When you talked about it yesterday, hundreds of people called our newsroom, reached out to us that the system is still broken. Is it broken? And do you have a timeline to get everything?
So we went through the numbers, and what you saw is, this has required a lot of engineering on the back end. I mentioned yesterday, we were in a situation where this thing was just totally shot. So we looked at, can you just get a new one? And the bottom line is that would have taken like a year. It was not viable. Can you figure out a way to just go around the system by hand? But you have to do all these checks to comply with law, so you just couldn't do it. So we've engineered it. There's been, I think, 777,000 of the claims have been processed. If you look particularly in the last couple of weeks, you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of payments that have gone out. So the last week or two has finally gotten us in a good spot. Not there yet. There's going to be more done on the system over the weekend. But what they're doing on the weekends, because you've seen some major spikes in payments on these Mondays, and that's great, they actually take the interface down. You can still apply on Pega or send in a written application, but it allows them to make changes because the system has really got flawed architecture. And by the way, we're doing an IG investigation into this thing. Was contracted in 2011. It's multiple amendments to this thing. It ended up being $77 million. The engineers I talked to said, look, for that type of money, this thing just didn't fit the bill. So we're going to research that, figure out, investigate, figure out what the problems were. But in the weekend, they do work, but then they're processing all day and all night. And so that, I think, has helped get the numbers up. So we're continuing to work hard. It's obviously not done, but compared to where it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, when literally you could pay like 1,500 people at a time a day, that's not going to cut it when you have this many people. We also, I mentioned yesterday in the brief, one of the part of the bottleneck was not the Florida system either. It was you submit, our system would take it, but then it's got to ping federal databases, which were taking forever to be able to give us answers. And that's required by the law to make sure you have a social security number, some of these things. So we were able to work with Highway Safety, who's got a lot of this information, and they've been able to validate it so much quicker. So a lot of those payments that came out over the last 2 weeks would have been probably most of those still bottlenecked with the federal verification. And so that was really good for DEO to work with them to be able to get that. So it's ongoing. It's been a top priority, but we've put so much resources into it because we know how important it is to people.
Now, when it comes to senior citizens, this thing had stressed on them before you got here. She is so desperate for help with her unemployment claim. She thinks the clerk would sign. What do you say to someone in those situations?
Well, we'll get the information. I'll have someone get it, and we're happy to help. Our DEO, what they do is when they see things, someone maybe in a news article or even on social media, they are actively researching and figuring out, okay, what's this? Is this person caught up? Is there a problem or whatnot? And they've been doing that pretty proactively. What they have found is that most of those folks have not completed the application, either didn't have a social security number or not eligible because they didn't have a job recently. But those are things that if you get in touch with DEO, we can help. And there are some other forms of relief for people who don't qualify for unemployment compensation.
This limits claims as active and eligible, however.
So you're just telling me if someone's not here, we can get the information and we're happy to look at it. Absolutely. I wasn't involved in removing anybody. So we're happy to work. I got Rob right there. So do you have her name and information? Okay, right there behind you. See? Give it, and then we'll get an answer today.
What about Ken Watson right now? We know that he's not in charge of unemployment, but he's still the head of economic opportunity. He's still receiving his paycheck. What exactly is he doing?
Well, as you know, DEO does more than just this. This is obviously front and center, but they do things like hurricane relief and things. I just didn't want John Satter to have to be burdened with it. So that's why we've made that decision. John Satter, Secretary of DMS, came in and he really got this moving. He had been helping up before he got the job here, with the call centers, the DEO previously, they just didn't get it done. John helped get it done. We've gotten now huge increase in call center capacity, and then obviously some of the architectural changes to the site that have allowed some of the stuff to be processed. So I want John focused only on getting people checks. I mean, that has been the number one priority, and I told them, don't take your eye off that ball. Some of these other things the agency does, it's not that they're not important, but those can be handled, and you focus on this because of the sense of urgency.
Governor, some people are looking for someone to blame. Do you think this was the former governor's fault? Is it
Look,
your-
I don't get involved in the blame. I mean, my job's to fix problems. So when things present, I've got to figure out a way to fix it. We've worked hard. We've made progress. We've got more progress to make. You know, one of the things I was disappointed in DEO for was when this started, we knew there was going to be a crush. You know, I told them, get people. We need more call centers. We need more people. And they were like, well, it's going to take 3 weeks to train people. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It shouldn't be that hard. John came in, we did 24, 48 hours. But DEO told me we don't need as many call centers because you can just direct people to the website. So early in the process, I actually said go to the website because they told me that was the way to do it. They did not test it. They did not beta test it. And that was disappointing. And so obviously we've got new leadership there. But at the end of the day, in government, you know, there are going to be things. There's a lot of contracts that happen, you know, in the past. There's just different things. When the problem presents itself, what can you do? And I think what we've done is we've done an all hands on deck approach. This was something that potentially we would not have had any checks out in April because the thing was so damaged. But we've been as resourceful as we can. I've surged 2,000 state employees from other agencies that have nothing to do with unemployment, and we've put them hands on deck. They're helping to process paper applications, taking phone calls. We now have 5 fully stocked call centers. I went through yesterday in the brief how the calls had been at this level, and then all of a sudden here, they actually are starting to go down a little bit. I think that's because claims have, we have over 770,000 claims have been processed, been sending out a lot of payments. We've got to keep it up. We've got to keep the momentum up. But if we get to the point where, you know, we're able to just as a matter of course churn out payments every day at a good level, you know, then I think people will see and they'll know. But people should know there's a lot of work being done on it. I know many people have finally gotten paid. If you haven't and you're eligible, you know, it's going to happen, and we're working as hard as we can to get it out soon.
Guys, one more question.
Governor, phase 2, many restaurants saying opening at 25% is not feasible for them. They wouldn't break even. What does phase 2 look like? Have you looked at that for restaurants opening up more than 25%?
So what we did here, and I know it's not every restaurant can do this, but we looked at the science and said outdoor seating is simply less risky than an indoor environment. I mean, I think that's been proven with how this disease is transmitted. So we allowed outdoor seating with the 6 feet in between tables. And so a lot of restaurants have been able to take advantage of that. I think they can do that safely. I'm not saying they couldn't do more than 25% safer in a safe way. I think they can, but we looked at kind of what folks were doing. We wanted to just kind of be very measured about it. My task force recommended that they go to 50% immediately. And I understood that 25, heck, even 50, if you close down because of this, probably not going to open just for that. I get it. But there were a lot of restaurants that have been doing the takeout and the carry-out orders. I allowed them to deliver alcohol. I think that's been pretty popular. We're probably going to keep that going. Maybe we'll have the legislature change the law on that. But I think that that's been good. So it was kind of a baby step in terms of let's get in, let's get safe. But what I want people to do is go in, feel safe, understand that you can do it. All the restaurants are going to be very cognizant about safety, and I know a lot of the patrons are going to be cognizant about safety as well. So I think you're seeing the restaurants that have the capacity to do the patio and the outdoors, they're going to be able to take advantage of that. Yes, there will be limited indoors, but that, of course, we want to get back to where we can go on full capacity. You actually can, even with a full restaurant, if people are cognizant about it, you know, you can do this in a way that is safe. But we felt that was the better way. So we may end up in phase 2 doing it, but I understand the restaurant folks who were not doing takeout, how it is tough to be able to say, I'm just going to do 25, especially if you don't have any outdoor seating. But we're going safe, smart, step by step. We're being consciously judicious on this. And I think that as people go, They get the sea legs under them. People have confidence. I was asked yesterday, would I take my wife and kids out to eat? Would I feel comfortable? Absolutely, I would. I feel 100% comfortable, partially because I know that my kids, fortunately, are in an extremely low risk group. All of our kids are, unless you have a kid has a serious condition. And so that's a great thing. I mean, just imagine the Spanish flu in 1918, that would take out school-age kids like that. It would take out soldiers. So we know that you can go. And then obviously my wife and I, are in less risky groups. So I have no problem doing it. I have no problem abiding by the safety. I have no problem keeping the social distance. I know the restaurants want to do it. And I think that that's the way it's going to go. And we haven't had a lot of time to get out of the house, even apart from this, because we've got a newborn daughter and I've got other 2 rambunctious kids on top of that. But we are going to go, and we're going to go some of the places in Tallahassee and do that, because I think that we need all these small business folks, particularly the mom and pop restaurants. These are really important parts of the community. And my view on all this is obviously safety is paramount. But we have ingenuity as a people. We have the ability to figure things out. And you have a responsibility to get to yes so that people can get back on their feet and conduct their businesses. I think what we did with the restaurants is a start. Obviously, we're going to have to do more. Heck, if we continue to have 2.6% positive test results coming back, that's going to be very good for us to continue to go. And if you look at that trend, it's really, really been good. You look at the other trends that you see, the syndromatic indicators went up at the end of March, beginning of April, and they've gone down really across the state in terms of hospital admissions for these certain symptoms. That's another good sign. Hospital capacity has been fantastic this whole time. We have PPE, we have all this stuff going in a good direction. So let's just keep doing it. We're going to have more opportunities to get into phase 2. And look, quite frankly, there are parts of this state that probably could have started at phase 2. I understand that. But I also think that we've just got to be very measured with how we're doing it, instill some confidence, and then I think we can get back very quickly. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.